From the world of AV programming and control with James King, I'm Steve Greenblatt, and this is Ask the Programmer. Hey, James, how are you today? I'm glad we're back and we get to share our conversation with another guest.
I'm doing good, Steve. And the last episode with this guest was great, so I'm looking forward to this one. And how are you doing, Steve?
Doing okay, doing okay. I'm really enjoying the journey that we've been on. It's been great to continue to open our podcasts to more voices and to discuss more topics. And I think you and I get to learn from them along the way.
Oh, yes. I love all our guests. They all bring wealth of knowledge.
So, if you haven't tuned into our previous episode last week, episode 234, we got to meet Jason Martinez. He is the Q-SYS Ecosystem Developer. And Jason, welcome back.
Hey, Steve and James. Nice to be talking to you guys again. Thanks for having me back.
Thanks for being with us. And so, the last episode, as is tradition, we like to give Jason the opportunity to talk about his background and his AV journey. And we got into the roles that he's played in programming and what really contributed to his success in that regard. And where we left off is his current position, which is as a Q-SYS ecosystem developer. So, Jason, tell us a little bit what that means and why is it a role that programmers will benefit from?
Yeah, where programmers immediately benefit from is they get the plugin, right? And they get the ease of getting the integration kind of all figured out for them. And what they don't get to see right away is the back end process that you and I and some of the other developer partners get to work on, right? And so where that kind of starts is typically a manufacturer will either come to us or come to one of our developer partners and say, hey, we want to be in y'all's ecosystem. What do we need to do to make this happen? We get them signed up with a partnership, allowing them to use everybody's logos and make sure that we're on the same page. From there, then they give us API documentation, right, that we thoroughly go through. We have meetings, and we get to actually talk with the individual who makes the API, right? So any specific questions or anything like that, we get to actually go over and create a scope of work first to be able to say, hey, this is what we want to accomplish, still staying true to the Q-SYS style, right? And concept of everything, and just get to go through the API, go through the use cases, and just kind of make a scenario that makes sense pre the plugin, right? And from that step, we either hand it off to a developer partner like Steve or one of the other firms, Control Concepts. And then sometimes we do them in house as well, and I'll actually build the script and kind of go from there. So it really depends on what the use case is, right, in the scenario. But with our developer partner program, right, we have a huge uh, team of developers that we get to work with, right? And everybody kind of specializes in different things, whether it's straight audio video plugins or utility plugins, or everybody kind of has a specialty category, if you will. And then from there too, right? Like even I know you have sent me some pre-scopes. Sometimes the manufacturer comes to you ahead of time and you guys build the scope and just kind of send it off to me. Hey, this is what I have built. Can you just double check it, make sure everything looks good? So it's a really great process. There's a lot of checks and balances. Nothing to be missed, right? As far as, oh, should this command be there or not be there? And being on this side of the fence now, you kind of understand maybe why some things are not there or why they don't work. Like maybe it's just not available in the API, or maybe this would cause, a train wreck to happen if you actually made this thing happen. So there's a lot of the logical thinking to where when we hand it to a programmer, they have a different mindset of thinking, right? But the crashing the core, the any of the major hardware failure stuff that could happen is already figured out. So now you just have to fill in an IP and go, right? You're connected. You don't have to write custom scripts. You don't have to decipher an API to make something happen.
Yeah, talk a little bit about that because one thing that I am big on is and James as well, that we don't want to use terms that uh, may be misinterpreted and so forth. So a plugin, for those who don't understand, who have not heard that term, is similar to a module or a driver. And talk a little bit about why what the difference is between just working with a manufacturer's API, which is still a feasible solution for some programmers, and why a plugin is maybe a more enhanced solution for them.
Yeah. So when you're working with an API, it's definitely a way more difficult path, right? Like you have to first start off reading the documentation. Every manufacturer is a little different, right? So each document will be completely different. It's almost just like a different set of instructions, if you will. And so it goes over, this is, the protocol that we use. This is how you establish communication. Depending on the API, there's all sorts of different kinds. You may need authentication, you may not need authentication, right? Like a username and password, and just little things like that can start making things complex. So if you don't need a username and password, boom, it's straightforward. Usually you just enter an IP and send a command. But if you're needing to use a username and password, well, now typically you're going to be receiving a token. So now you need to hold that token and send the token with all the commands. So there's a few step processes, and if you've just never done it before, and if you've only ever really used a module or a plugin or a driver pre-made from somebody else and adding it in, it can be a nightmare. And it can be a something that makes you want to quit your job almost, right? And I actually have a funny enough story with that too. At my last role, that's what actually got me started into APIs and getting into things, was my engineer. He wanted to get a piece of equipment to work that there was no module for, and there was an API and instructions. So I ended up using Postman, right? Getting it to work. And I'm like, okay, like I can get it to work through here. Now let me translate this over here. And so that's really kind of what started my API journey. Uh, but yeah, starting with a product, starting in Postman, right? Not just trying to dive straight into, let me build a full-blown script. Definitely helps, right? And even for me, I still do that to this day. When I'm going to test something out, I'm like, all right, let me make sure this actually is true. And I get the responses I need. Everything's typed out correctly to where I can just copy and paste that in whatever script I'm doing. Because we all know programmers like to copy paste. I don't want to retype or type something incorrectly. If I know it works here, I'm just going to paste it over here. Um, but yeah, the real benefit of that is uh, when you have a plugin, all the scripting, all the weirdness of the interpreting the API, all of that has been done for you. When you're writing a script from scratch and especially if it's your first time, you'll be messing with it for a few months. And that's kind of like the easy way of putting it, right? And that's if you have the hardware in front of your face. If you don't have the hardware in front of your face, you can just try some things, and the next time you're on site, pray and hope for the best. But yeah, it's one of those things. It's a whole different skill set when you're writing a script for an API and trying to control a device, rather than just, oh, let me write a script to maybe flip some pages on a UCI, right? On a user control interface. It's just completely different playing fields.
Thank you for explaining that because that's a great way of putting it, and I um, really appreciate the thoroughness of it, and it was a really good analogies too. Uh, James, you and I talk about this often, and based on your past experience, the stuff that we do, sometimes you could trust a module or a driver or a plugin, and other times, you might feel like your hands are tied. I know that you typically like to get your hands dirty and do it, you know, hands on and send it commands and not be tied to something that somebody else did. But you have somebody now that you can speak with, or you're going directly to the source with somebody who's kind of making a case for this. What are your thoughts?
So I'll admit, this is something I have slowly changed my mind on. When I started out in programming and I was building things and stuff, like, I'll admit, I was a control freak. I wanted to make sure, kind of what Jason was mentioning back in the last episode with the residential, everything was on you. Like, he didn't want a service call coming back to him. I I wanted to know my code inside and out, every single thing it was doing. So this way, if something went wrong, I knew how to jump in and fix it. And so I wasn't a fan of module plugs and drivers. I did a lot of, like Steve said, got my hands dirty. Now, as I'm involved and, less programming, and I'm now a manager, like, I see the need to get things done quickly. What require like where I come from is that trust. Having somebody you can trust where, hey, something's not working right. Who can I call? Who's gonna pick up the phone? Who's gonna help out? If I have no clue, then I don't want to use that person, that plug-in or driver, because my rooms need to work. When we're in higher education, especially medical students, their schedule is to the T, to the second. They can't have any deviation, any in their schedule. So I need, if something's not working, I need to be called somebody and be like, I need to fix it yesterday. So it's really that building that trust feature.
Well, and to James's point, there was plenty of programmers I've ran across too that did similar things, right? Or there was a module out there in the marketplace, but they had their own forked, variation of it, right? And they were like, no, I'm using mine, and that's that. And there's nothing wrong with that, but there was definitely time put into that module, and it was not a let me write this and slam it out. It was, a month minimum process, or an ever going process, right? Of, oh, you know what? I need to add this feature now. Let me add this. And so that is the if you have the skills to do it, excellent. But like in these scenarios, uh, you're not having to mess around with a lot of that. And then, with ours, checks and balances, we go through all the use cases and try to put ourselves in any shoes that we could actually put ourselves into, right? And what would this be need for? How could you use this? And build sample designs, right? Just go through the whole process and try to make sure that everything is actually covered. But no, either way is fine. I think it's great for people to go explore and try to create things, but there's definitely just levels to it, and maybe somebody's just not ready to go create a full blown module, right? Or maybe just create one section, but they still need all the other part of this module. So there will be times, and it's definitely a need in programming, but with Q-SYS and our library, we are able to accommodate a lot of it, thankfully.
Yeah, I would like you to elaborate a little bit on that process, because the key to this is, providing that quality and assurance, because it sounds to me like the big takeaway from this is providing confidence and trust. So, you mentioned about the scoping, which I think is really important. And, that's kind of marrying the functionality that you're looking for with the functionality that the product provides through its API. But there's more that's the starting point of that journey. Then there's the way things are developed. There's a little bit of a blueprint for that, and also it gets validated, and it isn't just saying, hey, this was done, ship it.
Right. No, exactly. So yeah, once we get past the scoping process, then the actual work begins, right? Then it's like, okay, cool. which feels like a whole project on its own, right? Is creating the scope, meeting everybody. There's always two or three meetings involved first, and you're like, cool, I got this done. Now I am ready to actually start writing the script, right? And so this is where the developer comes in. And so that's either going to be in-house or one of our developer partners. And so we start creating the scripts, and once everything is created and kind of matches the wireframe, right, that was to the scope, and matches all the use cases, then it gets submitted to another team, and that team then monitors the plugin, right, and pushes it to an actual core, make sure that it doesn't crash the core, and gets verified, like Steve said, and goes through a whole process. And once that is done, then it's checked off and said, okay, cool, you are actually able to now post this. So
Yeah.
it sounds like a fast process, and on average, it's what, maybe it's 6 month turnaround, kind of on average for a plugin.
It could be, depending on the complexity. Yeah, I would say it is. There is certainly a lot of time and care put into it.
Right.
And to James' point, which I think is really important, is that he wants to know who do I call when something doesn't work and doesn't want there to be finger pointing. Can you speak a little bit to that?
Yeah. So in each time you download a driver or a module, there is in our library there is a actual way to contact the manufacturer or the developer. There's a link to it, and then you're always welcome to contact support. And support can help you say, oh, you know what? This is actually so and so who developed it. I've actually ran into that exact scenario when I was on the other side of the fence. So it depends on who did what, but we will definitely help you, point in the right direction, or get in contact with the developer and let them know, hey, this was a known issue, right? Or even just posting it on communities. Pretty much all the developer partners are there on communities, and they all know kind of who handled what, right? But I would say reaching out to the link directly in the plugin, right? Or reaching out to support and having support tell you who to reach out to would be your best bet. But typically with the plugins, everything has been fully tested, everything has been fully done, and it's very, very slim that something is to happen like that.
And I think the key element there is that support is a requirement for the development. It isn't something that's optional. That all these have to be supported, and that there has to be a mechanism for somebody to be able to resolve an issue that they might have. So, and from my experience, those might be questions, those about how to make it work. Those might be, here's a specific scenario that I'm in. Can you help me through it? But to your point, things are fairly very well and thoroughly vetted. It's just the what ends up happening when there's a firmware update, or there's some changes that are post development that could bring up a potential issue.
Exactly, exactly.
Um, let's explore a little bit further as to one of the things that I caught my eye when you were in your role, and we got introduced, is that you're looking to really give developers a spotlight and to talk about what they do, how they got to where they are, and also what's the role that they play in helping to make a plugin work and so forth. And you have a column called Behind the Plugin, which is really focused on that developer and the company that supported the development of the plugin. So, why is that something that's important to you, and what got you inspired to go down that road?
So yeah, I think especially being in my previous role, you just kind of look at this library and you're like, oh yeah, that's Q-SYS, right? You don't really know who's involved with what, and don't really know a face to put it to, right? So for me, being on this side, I was like, you know what? Like, it'd be great to highlight some of these plugins, highlight some of the use cases, who actually does them, and produces them, right? And expose that and show that to the people. Because I know when I was a programmer, that was the kind of stuff that I was wanting to see, and be like, oh wow, that's the person who actually made that and made it happen, right? That's what gave me hope, I guess you could say, right? And knowing it's a real person, it's not just some machine making these things, right? Because when you're in the mix, you're not really thinking about that kind of stuff, right? You're just drag and dropping the plug in, and you're programming what's in front of you, which is great. But then if you ever want to take it a step further, it's like, oh, well, what about that plugin, right? That made it so easy to use. But it's typically the stuff that we find that's easy to use, right? That's a lot of work in the background.
Mm.
So we don't have to think about it. So yeah, just highlighting that, spotlighting that. I think anybody who creates amazing stuff and puts it out there like that deserves to be spotlit. And uh, I just think it's a great thing to spread names through our industry, get everybody familiar with each other, right? So it's a great thing, and a lot of the developer partners, I have seen in the other market too. So it's kind of cool getting to come full circle now, and it's like, oh yeah, I was using your modules back when I was on the other side, So it's a really neat process even for me. So
Very cool. So one of the things that I like about it, and where I like where you're going, is that you're not just putting the spotlight on the company or on the leadership, but you're putting it on the person who actually made it happen. And a lot of times they're behind the scenes. Um, James, this is something that really is a foundational element of why we have Ask the Programmer. Um, what are your thoughts about it, and how can we see more of this in the industry?
I don't. I really don't know how to answer that. I mean, I think it's a good move, but how we can see more, I'll admit, I really don't have an answer for that, Steve. Sorry, you stumped me. You finally
Okay.
stumped me.
Well, I'm sure you have one, but it's we'll get back to it. I guess the easy way out of that is, we have to be willing to raise up each other, and that's kind of what Jason's doing. He's saying, "Hey, I'm one of you. You know, like I used what you did, and things that you wrote were beneficial to me. I want to get to know you better, and now I'm in a position to be able to give you that opportunity." That's kind of where I see things, and it'd be great if we could see more of that in the industry.
no, yeah, and that's why I love what you guys are doing too. And that's exactly right. It's a lot of the names go unwritten, right? Of the people doing these amazing things. So I wanted to be able to try to push that forward. And that's something I would see common, right? Where it'd be like, oh, thanks so and so and your team. And it's like, so and so didn't even step foot on site. So yeah,
And
that
that's the point. I in my role, like I don't want I'm not looking for the spotlight. I'm looking to put the spotlight on my team if they want it.
right.
That's the hard part.
Yeah, and I know typically in this world, right, programmers, developers, you get a spectrum, right? Sometimes people are friendly, and sometimes people are a little bit more hidden in their cave. So it's a very interesting field to be in. But make friends, try to break down the walls, break down the communication barriers, things like that. I know I've been able to, for some people, and it definitely makes it a little bit more interesting, right? And getting the insights of everybody, especially the people hiding in the cave, they know a lot.
For sure. For sure. And I think going back to your previous episode, in that discussion. It's about making those connections and finding those people and getting to know them and making them feel comfortable opening up so that you can learn and they can learn and that we can um, draw more attention to these people who are making things work.
Exactly. Exactly.
Well, I think that's a good place for us to wrap this one up. Jason, it's been great getting to know you. It's been really, and you know, James and I really value people like you who are very willing to share your story and encourage others to be put themselves out there, but also grow and evolve. And you've given such great tips for people to be able to do so. How can people get in touch with you? How can they learn more about what you're doing, and how can they ask you questions or you know build that connection that you mentioned?
Yeah, so you can always email me, jason.martinez@qse.com. I'm on LinkedIn at Jason Martinez. You just throw like a QSE at the end, you find me. I'm on developers at communities. I'm anywhere that you can try to find me. One last thing I did want to add also is we have a Q-SYS Activate that is coming out October 1st. So be on the lookout for that. It's going to be some great stuff in there.
Absolutely, those are always great, and it's not only informative but also entertaining. So I appreciate that. Uh,
Definitely.
James, any final thoughts on this episode, and also how can people get in touch with you and continue this conversation?
I, Final thoughts is again another great episode with Jason here. It's always great when we have guests who can drop the knowledge and share. Um, if people really want to get a hold of someone, get a hold of Jason. You build that network, reach out to him, help him out. But if you're inclined to connect with me, I'm on the socials as AV_James King. I'm on as the programmer community. Again, Google me, you'll find me.
And James undersells himself because he's the one that builds communities all the time and gives a lot of people the opportunity to learn and grow and get recognition. So please do connect with James. For me, you could reach me at Steve Greenblatt on all the social platforms. LinkedIn is probably the one that I spend the most time in. And also, you can find the Ask the Programmer LinkedIn group, where we continue to some of these conversations and we invite our guests to join us in collaborating. So check that out on LinkedIn. If you are watching this show on YouTube, you can also find it on your favorite podcast player. And if you're listening to it, you can watch us on YouTube. Both are great places to engage, interact, leave a rating review. We would like to hear from you. If you are interested in being a guest or you have a topic or question you want to share, please reach out to us in all of the methods that we've mentioned. And we really appreciate you watching and listening. And until next time, this has been Ask the Programmer.